Hello, everyone. Thanks for checking into the Pit Stop. It's been a minute, and I'm so sorry for the delay, but Cayla and I are so excited to recap episodes 10 and 11. No special guests tonight, just Cayla and I cannot believe we are hours away from the finale of season 37 tonight.
I know. I like halfway forgot that it was like a 2-part penultimate leg. And so like when it ended, I was like, oh, I'm not going to know yet who wins. Like I'm so stressed out.
It was so we're in New York right now. Will and I are here. We have an Airbnb with like Michelle and Lewis and Emily and Molly. And we all went to the viewing party last night in Brooklyn. And the way that episode ends, which we'll talk about, which the to be continued, the whole crowd absolutely lost their marbles. They were like, no, like they're wanting answers. And we'll find out soon enough in just a couple of hours. But I feel like we're in for a very exciting finale. But before the finale, we have 2 weeks of episodes to catch up on.
We do. We really
do. Well, going back, we'll go back in time to episode 10, which was Up the River Without a Joust. It's our final 5 teams on this season: Jonathan and Anna, Brett and Mark, Alyssa and Josiah, Carson and Jack, Han and Holden. You know, we hear Han and Holden talking about how they're just so blessed and lucky to even like still be in the race. You know, they've been fighting for their life at the bottom all season long. And honestly, it's been very impressive that even though they're racing at the bottom, they're not letting it break them. So I think that says a lot about them as racers and their mindset. And then we also know going into this leg, Alyssa and Josiah, they're feeling pretty good with having the greatest advantage in the game, which is that express pass that they won on the legs prior. So really strong, well-rounded teams going into the final 5. Cayla, what were your overall thoughts about this episode?
So I really liked it just specifically because like of the teams that we have going head to head. I was actually genuinely curious the whole entire time if Alyssa and Josiah were going to use it at all. Because what a flex if you had it and you didn't need to use it. But overall, like I really liked the leg. I feel like I maybe have said it before and I don't want to sound like repetitive, but like this might be my favorite like group of teams in a minute. Like I just love how, you know, just like you said, Jack and Carson have been like started from the bottom. Now they're here, you know, but it's like, I really can't predict where these teams are going to land at the end on the mat, which is very refreshing from the past couple seasons. So yeah, I overall really liked it.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I think Strasbourg was actually kind of cute. It felt like straight out of a fairy tale. And yeah, I would agree with you about Alyssa and Josiah. There was a moment there where I was like, are they going to even have to use their express pass? And then I was like, what if they go home with the express pass and they pull and John? That would be so humiliating. But I'm glad they ultimately used it, which we'll discuss. But at the start of this leg, they were instructed to fly to Frankfurt, Germany, and then travel by train to Strasbourg. And once there, they had to drive to the Palace of Europe, where they had to name the 4 Council of Europe member countries that they visited on the race, which, as we know, was Bulgaria, Italy, Germany, and France, in order to receive their next clue. You know, it was such a simple and like straightforward task, but I do love that they kind of questioned Germany. Like that's kind of what really tripped them up, was like
threw teams off.
Right. They were like, wait, did we race through Germany? And I'm like, yeah, you did. I'm like looking at the camera. I'm like, yes, I read the TV. I'm like, you did, right? You took the train. So you're actively racing. But I liked that it was so simple, yet it still tripped up a lot of the teams. Oh, you muted. Wait, you muted. Oh, hold on. Can you hear me? Oh, she can't hear me. Okay, so I'll keep talking. If anyone else can't hear me, let me know. But I was just really sad because I feel like starting off this leg, Brett and Mark, we know, are a very strong team, and they've been performing really well the last couple of legs. That to see them. Can you hear me now?
Yes, okay. I can hear you now. I was like, what is happening?
What I was saying. what I was saying though is like I was really sad for Brett and Mark. I feel like they really started this leg off on a bumpy road, if you will, just getting lost and not knowing where to go. And like they're such a strong team. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, please don't let this be the reason that takes them out of the race, because I feel like they have so much more race to live. But thankfully there was a head-to-head on this leg. So even with getting lost, they would eventually get to a bunch point with another team, which this head-to-head was a combined roadblock where one racer from two opposing teams had to compete against each other in a water joust. The first racer had to push their opponent off a boat and into the river by using the lance in order to receive their next clue, while the losing racer had to wait around for the other teams to show up. And then the last remaining team of the head-to-heads would have to wait out a 10-minute penalty. What are your thoughts, Cayla, on the head-to-head twist?
So in theory, I love the idea of like teams going head to head. But then when I actually stop and think about the logistics, like there's just so many times where we have equalizers, like why the need to equalize yet again? Like I do like how if the team that's ahead, now they have to wait to go head to head with someone else, and now the team they were waiting on could beat them and move on. It's like I do love that element just because it could switch up like the placements.
Right.
These teams have already had their placements, kind of fluctuate on their own to where I would just be extremely upset if I'm the team that's way ahead and now I'm just having to wait for another team. Now, mind you, they all seemed fairly close as far as like foot race is concerned, like showing up relatively close together. But like you said, like Brett and Mark getting incredibly lost, like why would I have to lose my lead waiting to go head to head with someone? Like it's weird because I like the idea of going head to head, but in the same instance, I don't. And I don't know that it makes sense for the amazing race, if that makes sense. Like it is a race. So why are we I'm torn. Like to be completely honest, I'm torn.
Yeah, it's such a hit or miss twist for me. I remember when it was first introduced, I was kind of like, oh, this could be interesting. It could definitely, add something fresh to the race. But I think what I didn't like about it is that it kind of penalizes teams who have been consistent up to the point of the head-to-head, because then if they don't do well at that given task, they have to wait for the next team to show up and keep doing these head-to-heads. And it just felt like a weird twist to throw into the race, into like that's it, to be thrown into a race. It kind of like is a weird pause that I just don't think is really necessary.
Right. So like I'm thinking, I love the idea of it. Had it been earlier, when you have a ton of teams, let's jumble them up and make them go head to head. Love that idea. Two, I also think it needs to be like from the gate, the way you place first and second go against each other. Then the winner moves on. The next one has to play number 3, and then number 4, and then number 5. Like right at the beginning, that I kind of like. Again, but when there's more people, when there's so few teams and teams have a lead, like why am I being penalized for waiting on a team that's behind me? Like it's again, again, in the very, very beginning of the race when teams are still finding their footing and maybe they just were unlucky, like this is like their chance. If they can beat this person, then they move ahead and the other team has to wait. Like that helps jumble up the placements of, multiple teams when we have 12, 11, 10 teams. But when there's only, what do we have now? 6 teams at this point. Sorry, I'm getting confused between the 2 episodes. 5. To me, I did not like it. Like, I love the idea, it doesn't make sense for the race, let alone at this stage in the race.
Yeah, that was what's weird to me. It's like with 5 teams, of course, like that 5th team is going to have to wait out that 10-minute penalty, which sucks. But it just, I think it was just oddly placed. I'm on the same page with you that it should have just been earlier in the race with multiple teams. R. Nunez in the chat says, Elise and the producers need to hire Cayla and other past racers as consultants. I mean, honestly, I think having done the race, we kind of understand how the leg flows and kind of what makes sense. And I think the head-to-head being this late was misplaced for sure. And of course, I was so sad for Mark and Brett, showing up already last from getting lost and then having to lose the head-to-head, putting them 10 minutes behind. That would be very, very stressful. But overall, I mean, it was a cute little head-to-head. I do appreciate that they merged it with the roadblock. So
Yeah.
all in all, wasn't terrible, just was placed too late. And if I had
Yeah.
my choice, I would never want to see a head-to-head on the race again. It's just not
No.
it's not it.
Agreed. Love the task at hand. Loved
Yes.
the job, but like it just doesn't mesh with a race, in my opinion.
No. Well, after they were jousting, they had to travel on foot to a local cheese shop where they had to memorize 9 different types of cheese and correctly identify those cheeses in order to receive their next clue, which would then send them to the roof of the Cathedral Notre Dame de Strasbourg. I loved this cheese task just because, again, it felt very simple in theory, but with so many different types of cheeses and like tasting them, like, God, I feel like your palate would just get so mixed up and so confusing. And
But not only that, I was gonna say, not only that, like it wasn't like it was cheddar, American,
right.
like the names of these cheeses alone, I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, and then at least they were able to like look at it too and kind of I guess look at the consistency of the cheese before trying it to kind of help them narrow down their choices. But it was a great someone's calling. Oh, it's Michelle. It's a great bunch point in this leg, and I loved seeing so many teams bunched up in this cheese shop together. It was like absolute chaos. And this is where that race decision comes in for Alyssa and Josiah, who, as we know, are holding that express pass. I was screaming at the TV and I'm like, use it. Alyssa had such sound reasoning and explanation as to like why they should just use it. They're like, we're bunched up here. They had a 30-minute lead over us. They're still stuck. This is going to take forever. We can
literal no-brainer.
No-brainer. But Josiah, I couldn't quite put myself in his shoes to understand what the holdup was.
Yeah, like why not? I wasn't understanding that either.
Do we think it's like a little bit of like I know sometimes pride can have like a negative connotation to it, and I don't mean it in a negative manner for Josiah, but do you think a little bit of pride comes into play where like you just want to complete the task? You don't want to have to skip through it.
I don't know. I don't need pride in the race. I don't need to be last. I don't need to go home. I'm throwing pride out the window. Like I'll be prideful when I use that pass and I get first and I move on. Like exactly. I don't understand. Like what?
I was like, come on, you guys. And then the amount of time they took to even like continue having that conversation, I was like, Josiah, please listen to Alyssa.
I know. And then remind me again, like how long did they have to use the fast pass?
I think it was just up to leg 10. Like I think this was the last opportunity. So like they would
That's
have
what
to
I thought. So yeah, again, if you are literally way ahead of everyone else and you know you're ahead and you're not seeing anyone, yeah, that's a flex to keep that in your pocket. But when you're seeing other teams, and this is like, why hold on to it? Why? Yeah. Why even risk it? Because again, you don't know if there's self-navigation later. You better use every little minute of head start. Because at the end, like, believe me, like you will literally lose sleep over that. I don't know. Yeah. It's
sure they would have if they would have
pride. I don't know. To me, I'm just kind of like, pride for what? You've already made it this far. You won it, so use it.
Yeah, I'm glad that they ultimately decided to use it.
Me too.
But they wasted way too much time.
Agreed. And when I said like, oh, I was like, watching the episode curious if they were going to use it or hold on to it for a flex. Like what I meant by that was going into the episode, going into the leg, I just felt very strong about them to where I was kind of like, they might not need to use it. But it's
For
like,
sure.
obviously seeing how it played out, I'm like, I don't even understand an ounce of hesitation. Like we're using it.
Ugh, I'm
That
glad they
was wild.
did.
I'm glad they eventually got there and they used it.
Yeah, eventually got there.
Yeah. My
After
goodness.
this, like I mentioned, they go to the Cathedral Notre Dame de Strasbourg. I can imagine how exhausting going up those stairs would have been. Very simple, but a beautiful, beautiful scenery to like take in. I thought the drone shots of the cathedral were incredible. I liked this as a location for at least picking up the next clue on the race, which was
Agreed.
a detour of out to dry or for the birds. And out to dry, teams had to wash a tub of dirty laundry in the river before receiving their next clue. And then for the birds, teams had to construct a stork nest before receiving their next clue. I feel like this was actually a fairly balanced
Yes.
detour. Like I didn't think that there
Mhm.
was one that felt harder over the other. You just kind of have to follow the sample. The ever the example is for you, you just need to make sure you're
Yes.
doing what they're doing.
Yeah, I liked even starting from the cathedral and all the stairs, like that's just classic Amazing Race. Like I had to, which our scene of climbing up a bajillion stairs, someone can probably fact check me. This was in London. It never made the air. I don't know why, because it sucked. Like the Amazing Race loves stairs. I think back to when they had to carry the mattresses up the stairs. Like
Yes.
if you're ever about to go on Amazing Race, you better start doing some stair climbers.
Well, even the
Um,
first episode of this season with poor Jackie and
Yeah,
Lauren.
they already had to. Yeah. So, anyways, love that element to it. Super simple, but it's just a good way to exhaust you, which creates the fuse in your emotions to be very short for the rest of the leg because you're physically tired. So then, the emotional side comes next. But yeah, I thought they were super balanced. Absolutely loved the element of these little old ladies. Like,
Yes.
literally loved it. To me, like, I don't remember who said it, but they were like, they just felt very immersed in like, oh my gosh, like we're just like, a day in a life, here. I loved it. I also liked the building the wreath thing just because of it was a little bit more detail than just putting it around right, putting the cloth in there and oh, it's attached to the bottom. Like it's just little stuff like that as just a fan of the race, I appreciate that it wasn't just, oh, make this round wreath, like, or bird's nest or whatever the heck they called it. But yeah, very equally balanced. Just curious, like which one was further away, maybe. But yeah, I liked it.
Sorry for the music. I don't know if you
You're
can. There's clearly a party outside. I text
New
Will.
York, all New York's trying to join our podcast.
But so I liked how balanced both of these tasks were, but it was really interesting how Brett and Mark and Alice and Josiah thought they were essentially racing for last place. And so there was a little bit of I feel like tension between these two teams with getting directions and getting on the road. But Mark and Brett decided to like bypass getting directions. They saw Alyssa and Josiah get directions. So they figured, let's just follow them. And I feel like that's ultimately what cost them. Like, I felt like they should have taken a few extra seconds to get directions to really know where they're going, especially with how this leg started for the two of them. Directions seemed to be what threw them off even getting to the council at the very start of the leg. So I wish they would have taken just a few extra seconds. And then I was watching a recap for a Racers recap with Justin, and Alyssa and Josiah were talking about how they did whatever they could to essentially lose Brett and Mark. They knew that Brett and Mark were following them, that they didn't have directions. And so with them thinking that they were racing for last, they did what they could to lose them, to really ensure that they could get to that pit stop first, which we then see, Carson and Jack secure first place, then Josiah and Alyssa get to the pit stop second. And that like just sense of relief that kind of overcame them of like, wait, we're second. Like they really thought that they were racing for last. And I think that goes back to that express pass decision of you wasted so much time there that they kind of already had this stress of like, we're racing at the back of the pack.
Yeah, which like you didn't even need the stress. Like there was a path there where the stress could have been alleviated, but it's okay. Like I love the emotional response to like that like of being that relieved. Like I don't know. It just, to me, it just shows, what y'all talk about it more when we get into the next episode, of just people wanting to be there, wanting to keep racing. Like, just as a viewer, like, I felt their relief. So that was cool.
But sadly, okay, so we know Jonathan and Anna get third, Han and Holden get fourth, and that means sadly Brett and Mark.
I'm shook by this.
I was so devastated. I could just see the disappointment on their face, and I just, even they said it in their interview, just how much they felt like they had more to give on the race, and that this wasn't the end. But sadly, it was. Being the last to check in, it was really devastating, but so beautiful. They have such a beautiful relationship, and just seeing Mark console Brett in that moment, it speaks volume to the relationship they have. And yeah, I was just sad that they were so close. So close.
I was just, that came out of left field for me. Like, there was never a scenario when I went into this episode where I thought that they were not going to be in top 3. Like, it just, again, the navigation, man, it is make or break. I don't know, but like, you never really see a panic moment from them, which again, it's just like a testament to like how strong of like a couple they are, like how well they race together. Like I'm truly like, I was shook. Like I was like, what is happening right now? Like, no, I was so shocked.
Imagine if they would have gotten those directions, or if Alyssa and Josiah didn't lose them, then they would still be in it, I feel like. But
yeah,
they had a really great race, a really good run. They should be so proud of themselves. I'm so proud of them. And I honestly cannot wait to see them tonight at the finale party. I haven't seen Mark in years.
Since your dancing days.
Oh, yes, exactly. Well, that brings us to the penultimate leg. Like we said, this is a 2-for-1 recap. We're going to dive right into episode 11, My Knight in Shining Armor. Our final 4 teams: Carson and Jack, Josiah and Alyssa, Jonathan and Anna, and of course, Han and Holden. At the very start of this leg, they were instructed to travel to Porto, Portugal, where they would end up getting on the same flight. It would be an equalizer. They're all traveling together. And then at the airport, upon landing, they encountered an amazing race first, continuing with the theme of Season of Surprises, which, as Phil called it, valet roulette, but isn't it roulette?
Yeah. I was like, roulette. Interesting.
I was like, valet roulette sounds sexy. It's like valet roulette. Like, it just really rolls off the tongue. But I was like, I'm pretty sure it's valet roulette. But I have thoughts on this twist. Cayla, I want to know what you think about this little shakeup.
Again, it's one of those, like, I'm torn, but overall, I'll be positive about it. Like, or I don't know, like, the fact that it's just the luck of the draw of who gets the manual car, I was like, oh wow, like this is crazy. Like, I don't even know like what to say. Like, because I mean, I guess I liked it.
Yeah. I think it's so different, and it's such a fresh take on like
it was so fresh where I was like, wait, I don't really know how I feel about this, but this is crazy that like it's literally just luck of the draw who gets manual, who gets stick. Like,
and of
what?
course, I would be praying to get automatic. I'd be praying for it. I'd be like, please, 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 please. Like, I would not want manual.
Yeah.
No, absolutely not. But I think that this twist actually would serve better earlier in the race where there's more teams. The reason why I was a little bit against it is because I think the penultimate leg of the race is obviously the most crucial. Like, this is really where you're either in the top 3 or you're not at this point. And if you have to preface like, ooh, stick shift, it's taking out so many teams, then show a montage of stick shift drama. Thank God Will and I did not make that montage. I was like, oh my God, please, no. Yeah. But if you have to make a montage and talk about how it like really trips up a lot of the teams, why are we doing it on the penultimate leg? I don't think on the penultimate leg, people should get an advantage of an automatic car. Sorry.
Yeah, I agree. And didn't it say, okay, so now there's 4 teams. Didn't it say that there were 2 automatic and 3
correct
manual? Yeah. So there's an extra. So if anything, I wish it would have been 1 automatic and the rest is manual, to where truly only one team is getting an advantage.
100%.
For two teams, and I get that, based on like the chances, there's a chance that 3 could have pulled manual and only 1 got that. But like just the fact that there were 2 automatic out there and 3, I don't know. I'm like, that was interesting to me. I guess I would have just loved to know like the logic why half the teams essentially would get the advantage and half don't. Like,
which is why, again, it should have just been placed earlier in the season, where there's more teams to like really have this like valet roulette experience. But I don't know. I think I'm just such a race purist. I say this all the time, but race purist, that it's like, why are we giving people manual in the final leg before the final 3? That is not the time to have that advantage. I'm sorry. It should be like raw, amazing race. Like that is like an accumulation of everything to prove why you earned a spot in the top 3. And driving it's like a free pass.
Because the penultimate, like when you are down to 4 teams, like I almost feel like there is more pressure on that leg than the final leg where you're the final 3, but to get out right before having the chance to run the final, like I feel like has so much more stress. So I don't care who you are, if you're great with a manual or not, the stress of that leg will have you make stupid mistakes. You know what I mean? And so like, yeah, it's just, but now half the teams get the advantage and don't even have to have that added element of stress. Like, yeah, I loved the roulette part in theory, like, because again, it just throws a random wrench into the luck of the draw. I do agree with you. Maybe have it earlier. Like at the end, I don't want it to be anything related to luck. I want it to be who was the best racer, which I get is like, okay, well, they should be good whether they get manual or not. And it's like, I don't know. Yeah, like I'm with you. I'm with you is all I'm going to say.
Hopefully we see it again. And again, in this capacity, it needs to be earlier in the season where it's just like more chaotic with more teams. But fun little twist. I got to appreciate the creativity of it. Then teams have to drive to Villa Marim. I'm probably butchered that. In order to find their next clue. And then they had to paddle a raft across the river and then roll 2 wine barrels uphill to a storage house in exchange for their next clue, which would then send them to Castle of Santa Maria de Fiera. So I loved this. I mean, I love seeing the physical activities and more adventurous activities like rafting. Like it was funny to see. Alyssa and Josiah have been so positive and so upbeat, and they've worked so well together that like I enjoyed seeing a little bit of this friction between the 2 of them.
Me too.
Partner can get ugly.
But again, this is what I'm talking about. Like this penultimate leg, like when it is 4 and you are trying to make it to the final 3, like you want to at least get a shot to get the million, and you don't if you don't make the final 3. So it's funny how all attitudes, all levels of stress, everything, you see an adjustment even with the best of them, like at this stage. So yes, I have like a sick satisfaction of like, oh, they're like getting at each other a little bit. Again, that just correlates to me of like they care, you know. But I did like it. I was also paying attention. It looked like that was like a little bit of a flowing river, it looked like. So it's like if you weren't going consistently, you're gonna, like shift. But yes, love the physical. This was a very physical part, because once they got there, rolling those wine barrels up, this was extremely physical.
Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed it. It was straightforward. I do feel like in some ways it was a little linear, because I feel like the people who got there first just kind of maintained that kind of lead throughout the rest of the leg, which kind of takes out the suspense of like how teams are going to ultimately place. And maybe that's just because of our knowledge of the show and having done the race itself. I just was sitting there. I was like, okay, well, at this point, we know that Carson and Jack and Han and Holden have secured a spot in the top 3. I mean, I know there's a lot of other things that have to play out during that leg, but it seemed like they were far enough ahead. I just felt like it was kind of predictable after they completed this first part of the leg where I was like, they're in the top 3. For sure. Jonathan and Nana, that's questionable. We'll see, because they were getting lost, and Jonathan's attitude is a whole other story. But Yeah. That would be my only gripe about this is I just didn't feel like there was a lot of opportunity for more teams to catch up.
Yeah. And again, there's no opportunity to catch up, and it was just look at the draw of who got automatic. Like, yeah, it's just there was a lot of like little things that I'm like,
Because I didn't take no, I know Jack and Carson did get automatic, and I know that Jonathan and Anna got manual, but I don't remember what Han and Holden or Josiah and Alyssa got. And
I'm pretty sure Han and Holden got automatic.
so then it just goes to show that you have a little bit more comfortability
100%.
than driving a manual. Hell yeah. You don't have the added stress of having to deal with the stick. And then also they weren't given maps this leg.
Yeah.
Well, fun little task. And this brings me to the roadblock. I loved this. And
Yes.
this like roadblock, the team had to perform a medieval kind of charade, if you will. They had to get into medieval armor. Then they would have to shoot at 3 moving archery targets with a bow and an arrow within 7 attempts before receiving their next clue. I was just geeking out for Jack and Carson. It was so funny watching them do rock, paper, scissors of like who was going to do this roadblock. And then, of course, Carson gets it and just living out his nerd fantasies.
Like he's one of like, this is the best day of my life. Like I love that for him. It's my favorite moments on Amazing Race when people are just like, oh my God, like this is amazing. But like literally this whole thing was chef's kiss. I mean, having to wear the armor, sit on the thing. Then it was funny watching everyone's reaction when they're like, all right, move the targets. And they're like, oh, they moved.
Yeah.
And then the fact you had to get it in 7, that like everything about it, I loved. It was fun. It was the costumes, which, you know, Bertram loves the costumes.
Always.
But it also took an element of skill, which I want to touch on this a little bit too, because I was always so stressed out on roadblocks or detour. Like anytime that you had to pick a guide, like that can really shake some things up. Most of the times I will say it doesn't, but look at Han and Holden, how his guide was like tilted to the side. And he's like, oh my God, it made it so much easier. You know, like it's just funny, like the human element into it of like, really get to know those guys and talk with them and ask their advice. Like, you know, don't be shy. Like I literally remember Raquel and I doing the barrels, the whiskey barrels. And there was this really like hot guy in the back, like whatever. And Raquel was getting distracted. I was like, actually, no, let's use this. I'm like, go over to him. Like, go, like, see if he'll help us. Like, what are we doing wrong or whatever? And dude, he like spent extra time and was like really slowly going through it so he could see it. It's like, you got to use the people on like that are being given to you in like the displays and stuff. So I don't know. I loved that little element of it, and just how like the one guy was like, oh, tilt it to the side and whatever. Like it's just, I don't know. They're there for a reason. They're the experts, you know?
That is such a good point. I'm glad you said that because it's true. It's true. They're there for a reason. But I love how you're like, this was such a fun roadblock, but you know who wasn't having fun?
Okay, I'm like, I'm trying to be as respectful as possible and whatever. I'm just fed up. Like,
yeah,
I really don't know how Anna does it. Like, I get it. Some people shut down and stuff, but you're like towards the end of the leg here. Like, it's so childish, like just straight up childish at this point. And like, you're in a freaking castle in medieval, like, just, I mean, fake it. Like, I don't know. I'm just someone that like I can fake it. Like I get that there's like people and personalities out there that can't, but it's getting so hard for me to not comment on it and be like, for the love, I hope they go home. Like I'm just gonna straight up say it at this point. Like I really don't even think that he would be relieved if they get to stay. Like I'm truly gonna riot if it's not Alyssa and Josiah. Like I'm gonna riot.
same. I mean, it was just like I'm just not getting it or understanding it. Like you're still in the race. And for someone who says they love the race so much, I'm like, why do you have such a sour attitude? And like, there were like 3 episodes this season where he was practically invisible. I don't feel like they really edited him into the episodes. And I'm like, what happened on those legs? Like, were they just being gracious in the edit? And like, but now because there's few teams, they have to show more content. So we're seeing this attitude, and it's really disappointing. I know that they have their own recaps and they do such a good job. So I really do encourage everyone to go watch Jonathan and Anna's recaps. I don't feel like there's a lot of excuses given. There's just a lot of accountability and responsibility. And I have mad respect for that. I can't imagine how hard it is to relive this experience and kind of be a fly on the wall of your own behavior.
Yeah.
So I do give credit to them for really being transparent and being vulnerable about how they're seeing themselves. And when I really say seeing themselves, I mean more so Jonathan seeing
I was
himself.
gonna say, like, I feel like she sat there and was like, "Well, let's just try and have fun,"
He's like
and
rooting
she's
for
trying to
him.
help, and he's like, I
Yeah.
just, I don't. It's very hard to watch. Like, I mean, it always is, and I get it's hard. You're being put on blast, like whatever. But again, it's in the beginning. I understand it, but we're this far into it, and you're
Right.
still gonna be one-sided that everything's her fault, and you're gonna get mad that she's saying, "Hey, just please try and have fun." Like it's just I like I've tried to be like very PC about it, but it's not fun to watch. Like I feel bad for her. Like and yeah, if that's how you go out, like I don't know. There were definitely moments where it's like, let's just try and have fun. Like if this is it, if we're going home, like let's just try and have fun. Like I get it's easier said than done, but that was like pretty brutal. Like that episode, like I was just like, I
Yeah,
cannot.
everything is
I'm not going to be happy if it's not Josiah and Alyssa that don't make it. And
I
that's like aside from Jonathan and Anna, I actually just truly am rooting for Josiah and Alyssa. But I'm like, at least they want to be there.
right.
At this point, it's not just about like, oh, I just want to win. If you're not first, it's hard not to be happy. Like at this point, like I don't think you even deserve to race anymore. Like you're not learning anything. You're not learning that
There's
like just
no growth. Yeah, none.
yeah. And it
Mm-mm.
sucks. Like, and like you said, like I 100% commend if he's taking accountability, and I can only imagine how hard it is to be a fly on the wall in your own behavior. Like, I'm not trying to like beat a dead horse. Like, it's just hard to not talk about.
Well, yeah,
Like,
we're acknowledging it as viewers just as
yeah,
much as they are acknowledging it on their recap, being like, we
yeah,
see what the viewers are seeing, and like, let's talk about it. So I do
yeah,
appreciate that and again, I encourage people who are watching to go watch their recaps, and I've been very fortunate to have met Jonathan and Anna at the premiere party in LA for this season. And I think they are very lovely, lovely people. And again, I can't imagine again what it's like to be a fly on the wall for the behavior, but I do think that they are lovely people, and it's probably really hard for them to obviously watch back. And we know that social media and the internet can be a very cruel place. But like you said, it's hard not to talk about it. We're here to recap the show. We're just talking about what we're seeing. And if we were racing with that kind of energy, I would have a hard time with it. It would be really hard not to say something. And honestly, like Anna is really carrying the team. And I mean, no
yeah.
disrespect to Jonathan on that, but like she is a saint. She's doing
The
such
patience she exudes like is well beyond anything I could. I truly.
So yeah, just we had to bring that up because he was clearly not having any fun at that roadblock. After the road,
It's like such a fun thing, and everyone else is like,
right.
"Oh, that's so cool!" Like,
dress up, medieval dress up, and you're getting to shoot bow and arrow. Like this is such a fun task that like I wish we could have done on our season. But meanwhile, he's just like pouting about it's hard to enjoy it when you're in last. I'm like, babe, you're not even like really in last. Like you don't even know like what. It just I don't know. Anyhow. After the roadblock, teams had to drive to a railway station where they would travel by train to Sao Bento and then search the station for a man selling tiles that listed their next destination. After finding their next clue, it would lead them to Porto Wine House, where they would then have to assemble a tile puzzle, which would be the destination of the pit stop, which are the banks of the Douro River beneath the Lewis Bridge. And then as we know, the leg ends on a continued cliffhanger. But I do love the tile. I liked that they tied in the tile. I loved hearing the history of how much mosaic there is in the city. And it was really cool to see that they were able to utilize it in such a beautiful race fashion. And like, let's make a puzzle. And then they're also leaving that impact on the wall. Like, I bet that mosaic is still there.
yeah.
So I thought it was a really well thought out task. I do wish there would have been like maybe one more thing before this tile, because again, it was predictable to me that Carson and Jack and Han and Holden were absolutely, once again, going to make the top 3. They had the earlier train. They were both there. They completed their puzzles. So I do wish there would have been one more thing with the hopes that maybe they were all bunched up, because I think for going back to my season and our penultimate leg, it was stressful as hell when all of us were at that final music task, knowing that this was the last thing we would do before getting to the pit stop to hear if we were in the top 3. And all 4 of us being there, running around like chickens with our head cut off, like it added this layer of stress and drama that I would have loved to have seen on this episode.
Well, we're kind of seeing it with Josiah and Alyssa and Anna, and it's like, yes, the other teams were just that far ahead. Can't fault them for that, but I'm sure Josiah and Alyssa and Jonathan and Anna are like, I disagree. This was enough. Like, I mean, I thought Josiah and Alyssa have it in the bag, but now that they're caught up and it's technically showing Jonathan and Anna, and you even hear Alyssa acknowledge it, she's like, they're already done. You need to smooth more, quicker, whatever. Like, I'm truly worried for them, but I'm kind of like, I mean, Jonathan and Anna were able to catch up and they seemed pretty far behind. Like, they put that puzzle together very quickly, it looks like.
I mean they are a strong team. Like, Jonathan and Anna have proven that they're a strong team. It just, like, their dynamic has been really interesting, because you think that would make them not a strong team, but they have performed. They definitely deliver when they need to. But oh my God, last night watching this live with all the cast from this season, all the race alumni who came to the viewing party last night, and just the fans of Amazing Race, and the way everyone screamed at this cliffhanger and it being a to be continued was absolutely hilarious.
Well, I mean, and also, like, I mean, Jonathan breaking the tile, like right there at the, like, not like just all of it. I'm kind of like, is that gonna pass? Do they just get a new tile? Does he have to tile the, like, yeah, like there's so many things left hanging, like, in the abyss of like what's gonna happen. Like,
well, that's why
energy there.
Well, I want to know, what do you think? Do you think, and we'll find out obviously in a couple of hours, but do you think Jonathan will, if they get to the pit stop, will there be a penalty for damaging the tile? Because I was standing next to Justin Sheeman last night, and he goes, he better get a penalty for breaking that tile.
Because we didn't even mention this, not to backtrack a little bit, but Holden and Han, no penalty for not getting eliminated.
Oh, how not skip over?
Not, I know. In my mind, as we were talking in the beginning, honestly, it's because we were 2 episodes behind. My brain was fresh on the most recent one. Right. But how back up, Terry? How the heck do you not give them a speed bump? Not cool.
That was
not
really
cool.
That was a weird choice. And nothing against Han and Holden. Like, I'm so glad they're still in it, and I'm so proud of them for making top 3.
Me too, but it does not change the fact they should have had a speed bump.
If I was racing with them and they didn't get a speed bump,
I'd be pissed.
Like, what the hell?
What the hell? I'd be pissed. Again, and then now they get the luck of the draw of getting the automatic. It's just like, I don't like the element of luck and what it's just, to me, I'm grateful that they're still in because I love them as a team. I'm not trying to take anything away from that, but just like the competitor in me, and just like you said, like the race purist, you should have been eliminated. So the fact that you're here because of this twist, you still should have to do another task. Like, yeah, I can't believe we went past that, but yeah, and it's like now you're getting rewarded by the luck of the draw of getting an automatic. It's a lot of luck. Like, good for you. Happy y'all are still in, because I love they're entertaining as heck. Literally love them to death. Would be so thrilled if they won. Nothing against them. It's just Amazing Race producers. If you're gonna do a non-elim, how the heck do they not get penalized the next leg? I don't understand.
I know.
Mm.
I'm so glad you brought that up because I remember watching
You
that.
done pissed off
Yeah.
Cayla. I'm just kidding.
It
I
definitely made me feel some type of way.
imagine the energy of watching. I wish I was there with you in New York. I miss you so much. But yes, the cliffhanger, I'm shook. Yeah, Jonathan better get a penalty. I'm going to be pissed if they just hand him a new tile. No way. No way they just give him a new tile. But I'm assuming he just has to pay. Like, what do you think? Do you think he's just got to pave it up there all broken apart?
I'll be curious to see how they handle it because there's part of me where I'm like, I felt like on the race we were told to like respect the things that or like you don't get another thing. Like if it breaks, you're SOL, like kind of thing.
Yeah.
Or this is kind of a unique situation of it being tile where if you like put it up on the wall and you push the pieces together, is it going to still look like the mosaic? It probably would. So it's like, in theory, maybe a penalty should be applied. So we'll see. But if not, I would be curious why there wasn't.
I mean, I'm actually not opposed if there's not a penalty because I guess if you think about it, they're gonna have to take extra time to put that tile itself back together. So like maybe that's the penalty in and of itself. But I would just be curious if there was any extra information on the clue that states like these are the only set of tiles that you get. So if you break it, you have to put it back together. Like I don't know, but like I'm really worried for Josiah and Alyssa just because it seemed like they were again, I don't know if it's editing or what, but it's got me on the edge of my seat. Like Jonathan and Anna look ahead, like significantly minus him dropping that tile. So I'm just very curious what's gonna happen.
Same. I'm hoping
We're hours away. We're hours away.
How crazy is that? I know tonight is the finale. It all comes down to this: 9 countries, 18 cities, and they've traveled over 29,000 miles. One of the teams will be crowned the winners of season 37 of The Amazing Race as they race through Miami. Cannot wait to see what this final leg has in store. I'm going to predict a memory challenge, and I'm going to predict that it's going to be all the twists, and they're going to have to remember which twist happened on which leg because every leg had something unique and some surprise, and I think that's going to be what that memory challenge will be.
Yes,
but of the teams, we know Han and Holden and we know Jack and Carson are obviously in the top 3. We'll find out hours from now if it's Jonathan and Anna or Josiah and Alyssa joining them. But of the teams that are still here, if you could pick one to win it all, who do you think it's going to be, Cayla?
I'm gonna pick Jack and Carson. Who are you gonna pick?
I could go back and forth. Like, I think Jack and Carson have obviously performed the best. They've been incredibly consistent. They've had a lot of fun. They work really well together. They handle stress with such grace.
Very well.
That I think that, and they remind me a lot of Will and I, where they're just having fun together. And I think going into a final leg, keeping that level of fun and enthusiasm definitely is beneficial.
It helps more than you can know unless you're a racer yourself. Like the second Raquel and I were just like, we just need to have fun. Yes, we're competitive. We will always be competitive, but like, let's enjoy this and have fun. And like the way we raced dramatically changed. Like dramatically changed for the better.
I can see that kind of working because if Jonathan and Anna make top 3, they're going to be a hot mess. And I say that, I say them, but I think Jonathan will be. Josiah and Alyssa, I think, really could give everyone a run for their money.
I do too, if they can make it through this.
Yes. And then Han and Holden, you know, the reason I can go to them is because they kind of remind me a lot of like the Beekman boys, where they just were not great racers and they were always racing at the bottom. And then, of course, on the leg that counted the most, they won. And I feel like we've gotten a lot of great story elements of Han and Holden throughout the season where I feel like I know them as a team, and I feel like I really can see them winning, and it would be a beautiful end to their story on the race. But I would have to agree with you. I think Jack and Carson kind of have it in the bag.
Well, and you even mentioned something about the last time we recapped, you're like, I can see Han and Holden taking it all, just like as like the complete left field, like they somehow squeeze their way in, and if they can make it into top 3, you're like, I can see them winning. So it's like, again, it's one of those like, I truly think any of the teams could win. I just do have a bigger gut feeling about Carson and Jack. And reason being is because of their journey as a whole, they did struggle in the beginning. They've not just consistently been in the front of the pack, but like truly the reason why I'm giving it to them is like their attitude. Like the positive attitude and being able to just have fun alleviates so much stress that you don't realize. Like, again, it's so much easier said than done. But like, I don't know. Like, I've seen them be stressed out, whatever, but not a true set of panic. Where Alyssa and Josiah, I've seen them panic. Han and Holden, I've seen them panic. I've not seen Jonathan and Anna panic. I've just seen them flat out give up. And so it's just like I'm going Carson and Jack all the way, but I guess we'll find out. Like you said, in a couple hours.
We're 3 hours away from the finale. I cannot wait to see how this all ends. And Cayla, I wish you were in New York with all of us. I'll have a drink tonight in your honor. You will be missed. But I'll make sure to capture some videos and photos. So when we do our finale recap, I'll share those in there.
Please.
I'm hoping to get one of the teams from the top 3, or any of the teams, honestly, to join us for our finale recap. And so everyone who's watching, stay tuned for that. We'll
amazing.
I love you, Cayla, and thanks.
I love you more.
And have fun watching the finale tonight on.
I know. I can't wait.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everybody.